The Boy Who Loved Anne Frank by Ellen Feldman is a gripping story recasting the life of Peter van Daan, the Dutch teen who was in hiding with Anne Frank. Feldman asks what would have happened had Peter lived on and escaped the death camps of Nazi Germany. This book has Peter coming to America in the 1950s and reinventing himself. He is Peter van Pels. He has renounced his faith and heritage despite being married to a Jew and is the father of 3 children. The only thing that connects him to his former life is the number tattooed on his arm from his time in the concentration camps. Peter cannot escape his past. He is tormented by flashbacks and memories that surface when the Diary of Anne Frank is published, becomes an instant bestseller, and is turned into a Broadway play. As Peter begins to tackle his demons, the truth of his inner world surfaces, and he finds that he is in fact the boy described by Anne Frank, the boy she came to love when they were in hiding together in the attic in Amsterdam. With the floodgates of his memory overflowing, Peter's own life takes many turns as he re-examines himself and his place in the world as a Jew, a father, and a husband. Ultimately accepting himself as the Peter in Anne's diary, he must live out his life, being true to the reality of Anne, facing his responsibilities to tell the story as it happened for the sake of his father and mother, or at least this book imagines. In reality, Peter did not emigrate to America. Tragically, he perished in the Mauthausen concentration camp on the 15th of May in 1945, 3 days before it would be liberated. But there was actually a small minority of Jews who were granted asylum in the US. Though estimates vary, somewhere between 180,000 and 220,000 European refugees immigrated to the United States between 1933 and 1945. The United States accepted more refugees fleeing Nazi persecution than any other country in the world. Most of these refugees were Jewish and from Central and Western Europe. During World War II, Nazi Germany invaded and occupied Eastern Europe, including Poland and the Soviet Union, which was home to millions of Jews. The US quotas for these countries were very small, and Eastern European Jews had almost no hope of immigrating. The vast majority were murdered by Nazi Germany and its collaborators. But it wasn't just America where Jewish citizens sought out refuge. The Holocaust Exhibition and Learning Center features the real stories of several survivors of the Holocaust and Nazi occupation. Amongst them is Ruth Rogoff. Ruth, her mother and brother secured visas to England to escape from Nazism. They arrived in England in September 1939 just as war broke out. Once here, they were reunited with Ruth's father. Like Peter's arrival in America, Ruth arrived in England when she was still very young, and will go on to meet her husband David and raise a family of her own in Leeds. Even though the real Peter van Daal was not a refugee in the US, the story does an amazing job of questioning the usefulness of commercializing tragedy. On the one hand, bringing the story of Anne Frank to the public view allows audiences a deeper understanding and empathy towards the atrocities committed against the Jews, but it also thrusts Peter into mental turmoil, even making him consider suicide whilst his father's memory is antagonized within the diary that now the public has possession of. Thus, Peter becomes a symbol of several Holocaust survivors, who are forcefully confronted with their pasts even when they appear to be in a place of safety and settlement. I would score this book a 9 out of 10. What Feldman does in this book is portray how the Holocaust didn't end when the Allies won the war. The Holocaust and the deeply permeating legacy it left lives on, through the memories and trauma of those who experienced it. By focalizing on perhaps the most famous piece of Holocaust prose, the story of Anne Frank, Feldman is able to pose the uncomfortable reality regarding the price of safety and the obligations of memory.